email. All right, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to hit record there in the very beginning, so.
Jeff, that would also be consistent with Bob's vision for this, because he had originally envisioned that there would be a golden packet on the Pacific Coast Trail as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
working-
I found something about an effort that had already kind of started out west, but I don't know that they ever got it off the ground. I would love to do that, but Pacific Coast Trail is like two and a half times the length of the Appalachian Trail.
But
Just
his
need-
vision was not limited to the Appalachian Trail. That's what I was getting at.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's the other thing too, right? Is if you look at some of Bob's original plans, I mean, they talk about going out west to Huntsville, south to Stone Mountain and beyond. You know, of course, we had our friends in Canada in the past, which I guess, I mean, at least with where the stations were in Canada, that they were still technically on Appalachian Trail. I didn't realize that the trail continued on into Canada, but evidently it does. Hopefully we'll actually get Gerald and friends to join back in the fun this year, but who knows what's going on with Canadian government. I figure I usually check in with him around January, February timeframe. So maybe we'll have a little bit more. I would love for them to come back into the fold this year. And then, you know, I think my only other comment is just kind of related to the APRS appliance or Golden Packet appliance, that with how well it went this past summer for those that ran it, I would not be opposed to leading with it this year instead of Kenwood. I mean, I think the software decode, thank you, Mr. John. The software decode is as good, if not better, than what the Kenwood is doing. And we had excellent results, and your work on adding UI flood support made it so that it was possible to do. So thank you. So with that said, we got a few folks that are joining. I see some unfamiliar names. I don't know, maybe we can just kind of go around the room. John, what do you want to do?
Would you like me to do a real quick thing on Don's? And then the other thought I had is that, you know, if this were a club meeting in December, usually we'd have a holiday party. So I'm thinking that, you know, we take the remainder of the time, everybody goes around, and in addition to introducing yourself, maybe just take a couple minutes and say something you did this year in ham radio or something you're grateful for in ham radio. You know,
Sure.
just, you know, make it like a virtual holiday party going around.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm
So
okay
would you
with
like
that.
me to do the appliance stuff first?
Yeah, so we got a few newcomers. So if any of you guys are kind of wondering what's going on, I'm sure you're already aware we have the annual event, but starting after, not this past Golden Packet, but the one before that, we started these monthly knowledge share sessions. Some of them are more formal than others. This will be a very informal one. Since we had a presenter lined up for tonight, but unfortunately he was unable to make it. He had an emergency of some sort. So we're kind of ad-libbing it a little bit tonight. But my name is Jeff Hochberg, W4JW. I've been running the event for the past 3 years, coordinate this knowledge share. And I don't know, I guess just kind of like all around ringleader and neck to grab whenever something happens. So with that said, John, maybe you just want to give a quick rundown of what the appliance is and you know, what we did with it last year, and then you can, by all means, just go into whatever it is that you want it to.
Just for the background for everybody, Bob's idea was that if everybody went out with additional equipment, the chance of success was much better. So essentially we mandated that everybody come out with a Kenwood radio so that we wouldn't have interoperability problems. And the issue then became Kenwood has discontinued some of their radios, and availability of Kenwood radios is suspect in the long term. So what were we going to do? So the idea then was, could we make an appliance that could be used with any radio, that not a Kenwood radio, that could do the decodes and what we needed to do with APRS. So that was the genesis of the APRS appliance. And that effort broke down into two parts. Don was taking the lead on the hardware side using a Raspberry Pi. And many of us went out last year and actually used these devices on the trail. And John, sorry, John, I forget your last name, who writes Direwolf, took the lead on the software side. And very early, it became clear that APRS as a standard is non-standard. In other words, the way Kenwood implements it is different than the way Yaesu implements it. And there's all these little quirks. And Lynn really stood up as our protocol expert on all this. And John did a lot of programming to make the soft Direwolf meet the things we need, like, for instance, UI flood. And if people have questions on that, I'll turn that over to John later. In any case, we got it working. It does what it needs to do at both 1200 and 9600 baud. It will run on a Raspberry Pi. Don has specified a standard little audio interface board because by default, the Raspberry Pi does not take audio in and only takes audio out. And the interface board also drives the push to talk signal. So if you have any of the many 2-meter radios that have that little 9-pin DIN plug on the back, the appliance will plug in there. You can use a standard analog radio and it will interoperate. So that basically works pretty good. Don then wrote an article which for describing the whole appliance. Many of you may have seen that article. That's been submitted to ARRL and it's been accepted for publication in QEX. Now, whether that's actually going to publish before our event next year, who knows, because they have long lead times. And if anybody hasn't seen that article, I'm sure Don would be happy to send you a copy of that. So anyway, we have an appliance now that can be replicated, a standard configuration that you can use in lieu of the Kenwood. We'll do 1200, 9600 baud and basically works. The other thing I'd like to just speak to here is that many people may have seen that there are a lot of solutions out there because there's like Greg, I forget his last name, does a DigiPi. And there are a lot of other things that claim to do APRS. And the real issue there is that if you're trying to meet our strict interoperability requirements for the Appalachian Trail, virtually everything has some quirk somewhere that's a problem. And so in line with Bob's original goal of having everything be able to be standardized and interoperate, I believe Direwolf is the only software out there right now that's implemented all the features we need there. So as we look at this,
there is APRS IS32 that can do it also, but it's a lot more overhead than Direwolf on a Pi.
Okay. Yes. Well, if any software is going to work, Lynn's would work because he's our guru for protocol. And if not, you send him an email, he'll fix it. So what we have now in talking to Don is, we solved the problem is you can't get a Kenwood. The problem we haven't solved is you can't get a Raspberry Pi. Hopefully that availability of Raspberry Pis gets better by the time of the trail. It will run just fine on a Raspberry Pi 0W, which I guess they just raised the price $5. So I guess it'd be $20 now for that. You have to get, not all GPS units are the same. The GPS daemon that ships with Raspberry Pi, apparently that has some interoperability problems. And John, perhaps you could speak to this more, but the version of Direwolf we're using is not the standard release version that's available through the, just the get install. So you still have to make sure you're getting the right software versions that interoperate. So the build is more complex than we'd like. We'd love to have everything just rolled right into the Raspbian core. So when you did install, it would just be there. So these are some of the remaining issues that hopefully are gonna get dressed and worked on and part of this is just the fact of like the people that do the GPS for Linux, that's a different team. It's the typical interoperability problems. But the long and the short is we have an article coming out in QEX. Contact Don, he'll send you a copy of it. It explains the whole thing. We have something that works now. It worked last year. If anybody wants to do it, you got plenty of time between now and the event to collect up the pieces and hopefully test it before you go out on the mountain. So that's basically where we stand. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm just going to throw out that I'm actually running one of these Pi appliances as KJ4OVQ9 in my wife's van. And I've actually modified the image a little bit, thanks for some input from John, that it offers a Bluetooth connection. So with my Android client, I can actually be a mobile iGate through the Pi that lives under the seat all the time. It has its own self-contained GPS. It does its own beaconing. But when I desire to, I can connect to it with Bluetooth and be a mobile iGate with 2 clicks on the screen. So the appliance is very, very flexible, and Direwolf is awesome at decoding and doing the heavy lifting, headless on top of everything else.
And would you agree, Lynn, that the 9600 baud decode and encode in Direwolf is at least as good as the Kenwood?
I personally have not played with 9600 at all, so I won't go on record with that. But I can say that it has to be at least as good as the Kenwood. Because it's software. Let's face it. You can do things in software that the hardware can't keep up with, at least not consumer end hardware.
At least that's what us software guys say, right? Not that we're biased in any way. And the other takeaway from what you're saying, Lynn, is you're basically saying anybody that wants to get involved with this could get one of these, build it now, test it start using it and have it running for several months before the trail. So there's no need to wait till the weekend before.
Exactly. I mean, with minor configuration change and you have something that works gorgeously as a tracker on the national frequency. Any of your 2-meter rigs, especially if it's got the mini DIN out the back. I'm using an Elenco with a mini DIN adapter in my van, and it works fabulously well as well. But again, I'm on the national frequency all at 1200 baud. So, but it's very easy to get up and running. And then before the event, minor configuration change and you're ready for the event.
And anybody that's thinking about doing this, we have the experts here. If you're having a problem, bring the question back next month. You got John, who wrote Direwolf. You've got Lynn, who is I guess, I'm not trying to flatter you, Lynn, but I think it would be an understatement to say you are the leading expert on implementing software for APRS since you've been doing it for many, many years.
Let's just say I probably spent more time with APRS 101 than everyone outside of possibly Bob.
Yes, I would totally agree 1000%. If you watch Car Talk with Stump the Chumps, you're not going to stump Lynn. Lynn is your expert. So if you want to do this, do it. And you've got the team right here that can answer all your questions and help you make it work. So I'd encourage you, start doing it right away. Don't wait till spring.
Lynn, what rig are you using with your appliance in your truck? Just curious.
It's an Elenco DR135.
Okay.
It's got a DE9 connector on the back that you can get a mini DIN adapter for. The signals are all there. It's just, I bought the adapter to make it easy to use the mini DIN plug that recommended by Don that plugs right into the Dyna audio interface. And it's just plug and play, literally.
Okay, thank you.
By way of introduction, my name is Pete, KB1 Papa Charlie Kilo. My accomplishment in radio has been getting a hold of a 4B Pi this year. So I'm about to start this whole process of building it. So I'm looking forward to having more contacts with you guys and asking a lot of questions. Thank you.
Pete, in line with our, holiday thing, what tacky sweater did you get this year or whatever, or some of the things people do at the holiday parties. So what is this like using the computers with ham radio a new thing for you this year?
No, I've actually monitored the Golden Packet on with a PC at AGWPE and for a couple of years, and that's sort of been like half an apple. And I said, well, I'll just got to get fully involved here and have some fun.
Cool. Good luck. Jeff, do you want to take it around the room at this point?
Sure. Does that mean I'm up next?
Sure. You're the big kahuna.
Peace. So, guys, my name is Jeff Hochberg, W4JEW, located in Atlanta, Georgia. I guess I don't know how I kind of started running the whole event. I volunteered to help Bob around the time that Yahoo Groups was going out of business per se, to convert us over to groups.io, and somehow or another that evolved into me running everything. So it's okay. I actually really enjoy it. I mean, out of all the different ham radio activities that I've been involved with over the years, I've only been a ham for like 7 or 8 years now, but I do get myself plugged into a lot of stuff. But this is by far the most rewarding and the best group that I've worked with in my whole time being a ham. So it really makes it very enjoyable. Everybody is very professional and courteous and respectful of others, and all working towards a common goal, which I mean, frankly, can be hard to find in the ham radio world. Everybody's kind of off on their own, doing their own thing, and getting people to work together can be pretty challenging. I was president of the Atlanta Radio Club for a year, and I don't ever want to be club president again. Well, I don't know. I guess if we became a club, this would be okay, but not like the Atlanta Radio Club. That was a miserable experience. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't really necessarily think of myself as having any sort of accomplishments. I did start a DMR net, believe it or not. Last week was the 3-year anniversary of the net, so I had no idea that it was going to go that far. I started it out with one of my 2 Elmers, and then he backed out, and then I brought on five additional net ops. So up until last week, we called it the Georgia DMR net, but for the 3-year anniversary, I announced that we were rebranding it from Georgia DMR to Georgia Digital. And then that way, I think we kind of beat the hell out of DMR. I mean, it was getting hard to find new stuff to talk about after 3 years. So now, by calling it Georgia Digital, we kind of open the scope of the net to anything and everything ham radio digital. It could be, APRS, it could be P25, NXDN, M17 project, FT8, really anything. So it really dramatically increases the scope. And even though the net is called Georgia Digital, it's open to anybody, anywhere around the world. Any licensed amateur radio operators welcome to join. We have people who occasionally will join us from Europe and from Australia. And we have got a guy who joins us from Hawaii pretty regularly, another guy from Washington State. So people are welcome from anywhere. If you go to georgiadigital.net, you'll see information about it. We're also on groups.io. So I think that's probably, outside of Golden Packet, probably my biggest accomplishment in the ham radio world. I'm gonna turn it over to Ron. So KB5 LNC, you catch the ball next.
All right. Hey, Ron Spartle with KB5 LLC. I live in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Heard about Golden Packet probably around 2016. Saw on the news in 2019 that the Naval Academy, and I graduated from there, set up a satellite for APRS. So it was like a week, the Monday before the 2019 Appalachian Trail Golden Packet, and I sent a note to Bob asking him if he would be interested in coming to the Pentagon Amateur Radio Club and giving us a talk about the satellite that they just put up. Well, Bob said, sure, I'd like to come and talk, but I want to talk about, renewable energy. And in my email to Bob, I mentioned that, hey, understand tell him, kind of like to let him know who I know who he was and everything, was let him know that I knew that the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet was going this weekend, and that I lived in Fredericksburg, and I was thinking about going out to maybe Hawksbill. So Bob's reply to me was, yeah, I'll come and do the talk. And oh, by the way, we have a vacancy in Hawksbill, and how would you like to do it? And let him know I didn't really know much about APRS. I didn't have a radio or anything that could do APRS. And about 20 minutes later, he had a person out in Winchester who was going to loan me his brand new, D710 that's still in the box, never even turned on. So, when Bob's on a mission, Bob's on a mission. He wanted to compete it. He had a gap, and so that's how I ended up doing that. Still trying to build the appliance, so I'll probably keep going on that. I've got all the equipment I need, I think, to build 2 of them. So I want to get 2 of them set up to start talking to each other. And as far as this year, kind of piggyback off of what Jeff was talking about, I ventured into DMR because we got some DMR repeaters here, and I got myself an Anytone 878 capable of APRS. So still learning, got it programmed and getting it stuff, but I'm still a newbie with DMR, and want to continue to do that. And when I'm at work, a lot of times I'll take my lunch and go play radio at the Pentagon Shack, because we got a lot of donated equipment there, but it's nice to use a call sign for the Pentagon Amateur Radio Club when you're making contacts and contacting people who are doing parks on the air. So, all right, that's it for me. Back to you, Jeff.
All right, let's see who's next. Lynn, you're up. KJ4ERJ.
Okay, yeah, most of you know me. I threw a link into my backstory that one of the clubs wrote up years ago. They asked me for all the information. They put it in a nice format, and it gave me permission to put it up on my wiki. So you can read all about that there, where my background came from. Recently, my fun time, somebody referred me to somebody at Anytone that needed help with their APRS implementation on their APRS radios, and was able to work with, what's his name? He goes by Shadow, who is the person that speaks English and Chinese, but the developer only speaks Chinese, which you can imagine how difficult it is to understand APRS 101.pdf. Imagine it not being in your language. So we got it to the point that it's at, but unfortunately they've run out of firmware space. So things like smart beaconing and things will probably not ever make it into that. Echo, right. Echo, not Shadow. Thank you, John. Outside of APRS, which is by definition my forte, I also have played with JT65 and almost made worked all states on JT65 on 30 meters. Talk about a really focused effort to pull it off. And as part of that, there's a little object you can create in APRS IS32 that you point to your JT65 log file, and it will actually plot all of your JT65 contacts on your APRS map locally. So when there's anything that I need to visualize, APRS packets are really, really easy to compose, and the APRS clients just put them on the screen for you. So since then, I've now played with JT8 or JS8 call, and put up a 40 meter, 80 meter NVIS dipole in my backyard. I'm blessed to live on an acre, so I can put such things up and leave them up. And no HOAs in my neighborhood either. And the purpose of that is to be able to do emergency hurricane communications between here in Palm Bay, Florida, to Orlando, Florida, which is where my son lives, and over to Bonita Springs, Florida, which is where my son-in-law lives. And to have be capable of all 3 of us talking to each other with NVIS. We have proven the concept, but unfortunately both of them live in HOAs, and one of their wives doesn't really appreciate visible antennas. And so I'm the only one that keeps my station alive most of the time, even though I'm not active on it nearly as often as I should be. So APRS is my thing. Anybody's got any questions, just sling them my way. And if I can't find the answer, I'll point you to the doc that has the answer. So with that all said, back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, sometimes I often wonder if we hung our antennas while our spouses were not around, if they would even know that they're there.
My son-in-law actually just put up a brand new 2-meter antenna on 4 fiberglass poles.
Mhm.
And he's hoping his wife doesn't notice, because most evenings she comes home after dark. So Saturday is going to tell the tale whether she sees this new antenna up there sticking beside their palm tree in the backyard.
Well, I have a long wire end fed antenna. It's 100 wires, 135 feet long, and my next door neighbor was kind enough to let me hang it over his backyard. But it goes to a tree that's like half on his property and half on the property of the neighbor 2 doors down. She came home in the middle of me hanging the antenna. Now, granted, the antenna was up months ago. I took it down. She didn't notice it had even been taken down. Of course, she had a problem with where some of the paracord was. And so I bet you had she not been home when I hung it, she wouldn't have even known. But whatever, I digress. John, WB2OSZ, over to you, sir.
Hello, I'm John Langner, WB2OSZ, author of the Direwolf software. I also was helping Anytone with their APRS implementation. And as Lynn mentioned, their engineers don't understand English. So they really didn't understand the spec. They implemented things and they tested between their radios, like they could send messages from one of their radios to another, but they never bothered interoperability testing with a different brand. So it took a little while to figure out what was going on there. We also have one remaining problem found by people in Australia, that the Anytone will pick up or decode signals from most type of radios, but it would not, or most TNCs, but it would not decode signals from a TNCX. And we found 2 different cases where it would not decode the signal. And we got audio recordings. They looked wonderful and other systems could decode them. So I guess the moral of the story is if you're looking for an APRS capable of radio, don't get the Anytone. Okay? It's a really
Well,
bad implementation.
Am I guilty
at
for
least if you
roping you guys into that too? I think I am.
I think it came through you, yes.
Yeah.
But it's really only bad if you're looking for good interoperability with all the rest of the APRS field.
Right. Yeah. If you stick
But
with
if-
other Anytone radios, I'm sure it's fine.
Or if you buy one and it talks to everyone in your local area that you want to talk to, it's probably good enough for you.
Yeah.
Do they use a hardware or a software TNC
Some software.
software?
Well, I believe it uses a modem chip, something like the MX, what was it, MX616 or something like that.
Yeah, I think there's hardware TNC in there, but of course, all the packet forming is in software, firmware. But I'm pretty sure it is not a software decode.
Right, I'm pretty sure it uses a modem chip, like MX616 or something like that. Let's see, what else is going on? Raspberry Pis are like impossible to obtain. If I had infinite time and energy, I was thinking of getting an Orange Pi. Okay, besides the Raspberry Pi, the Chinese have come up with similar things like the Orange Pi, Banana Pi. There's a Rock Pi. I'm not sure where that's from. There's probably others. The interesting thing about the low-end Orange Pis is that the chip they have has audio input and output built into the chip. So that means you wouldn't need a a separate sound card. So again, if I had infinite time and energy, or maybe after I'm retired,
As long as their built-in chip has the push to talk CM108 pin on it, that's what the Dyna really made easy.
well, no, you just use an ordinary general purpose IO pin.
Duh.
Um, But one of them even has like a physical microphone on the board, but I guess you could just unsolder that and wire it in.
By the way, guys, I sent out a note. A friend of mine shared an article with me yesterday that came from raspberrypi.com that the availability of components has improved significantly, and their manufacturing rates are getting close to pre-COVID.
Yeah, I mean, the Raspberry Pi is definitely your best choice because it's so well documented and supported. And it'll, and the models will probably be around, 5 years from now, if you can get them.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
other.
the Orange Pi is
Yeah.
nice. There's another one, I can't remember the name of, a Rock Pi, I think. They can be kind of expensive depending on which model you're looking at, but I think they've got a unit that's like over $70, but it's like orders of magnitude more powerful than a Raspberry Pi 4. Same form factor.
Well, the good thing with the Raspberry Pis is, first off, in that article, they talked about the availability of the Raspberry Pi 4 with 8 gig may be slow. They expect to get a lot of 02Ws out. They raised the price $5, so I guess it's $20. But the Raspberry Pi Zero works just fine as an appliance. And they're supposed to come quickly.
For 1,200 baud, I hear that 9600 doesn't work, so maybe we can do something about that.
I don't know, John, can we make the software a little more efficient? Well, the good thing, guys, is that Direwolf will run on standard hardware. It's not dependent on some crazy modem chip out of China. And the developers here, both Lynn and John, speak English as a native language, so you don't have to get a translator to get them to understand the specs.
Yes. Let's
Really,
keep moving on,
kudos to
John.
John.
Let's keep moving on down because we got a few other folks to.
Okay,
Sure.
back to net.
I just want to say big thank you to John for Direwolf, because he's really made this appliance possible. Without him, we wouldn't be here. So big thank
doubt.
you, John.
Matt Pentia, Pentoa, I don't want to butcher your name, but NA1Q. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Okay. Hi, my name is Matt, NA1Q, and that last name is Pentilla. So sort of like Penn and Teller, but just shorten it a little bit. I was at the HAM Exposition, and I saw the presentation done, and it was great. I enjoyed it, the whole concept, and I want to get involved with it. And so I have been in contact with Dawn, and we've emailed back and forth a couple times. Unfortunately, my health has been pretty bad. I'm on oxygen right now. I've got some lung issues, and so once I get the health situation squared away, hopefully we'll get a little more active. I have been playing on digital modes, FT8, JT65. I've also been more active on HF, on 20 and 40 meters. 17 tends to be a fun band for me, though. But that's about it. I'm sort of portable operating. I use the True SDX and the Elecraft KX3. I do have an ICOM 7300. And of course, I have a bunch of Yaesu radios, the 8X series, the 857, the 897, the 817ND. I did have an 847 at one time. I've got an 891 my cousin's borrowing right now. And but that's pretty much it. And I've enjoyed everything here. And I'm learning about this, and I mean, I was involved with Packet back in the mid '90s when you had your TNCs and all that, and I sort of got out of it after a while because it sort of petered out, but I never really got into APRS, so that's something I'd like to do.
I
So
find
this
that
is-
it's kind of like the Ford versus Chevy thing. You're either like an ICOM guy or you're a Yaesu guy.
yeah.
Well, thanks, Matt.
Yep, thank you.
Brian, AA1WI, I don't think we've come to you yet.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Brian Dorval here, Brunswick, Maine. Former Navy, way back. I work for a company that builds destroyers here in Bath, Maine. Been doing that for 34 years. I've had my ticket since 2000. I've been very interested in APRS over the years. As far as that's why I kind of got involved with the group here. And I found out about this, about the golden packet back in 2010 with a couple guys from my group club in Brunswick. Were on top of Mount Washington that year. So they moved away, and I emailed Bob and asked him if I could take part, and he assigned me to Sugarloaf. But I guess the guy on Mount Washington couldn't make it that year, so they moved me over there. I had mixed results over there. So I kind of gave it up for a while, and I think John probably filled that spot in nicely. And then they didn't have anybody on Sugarloaf, so I just kind of sat back for quite a few years. So back in 2020, I think John Tarbox, if you remember, I sat up in your van with you and your partner
I
during
do
the event.
remember.
Trying to pick up some tips, up there. And then I decided, well, since I'm an official member and I can't complain about the weather, that I was sort of self-deploy and be sort of a hiker, rover, backup comms. It sort of felt like field day. I set up on Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park. I think that's in Acadia. And so I've been operating up there for 2 years, just sort of listening and see what I can hear. Kind of like I said, to me it feels sort of like field day, and I like that feeling. I like getting out because I haven't participated in field day for quite a while. And so that's about it. I don't really do too much with radio. I do a few satellite contacts here and there, space station maybe.
Cool.
And I probably over the last year trying to follow along and build the appliance with Direwolf, the Dyna sound card, the Raspberry Pi, and the rig to plug that all into and interfacing everything. I use a iPad with a Real VCN is the software that I use to kind of so I can visualize that. And no offense, Lynn, but I use Exaster, if that's how I pronounce it. Seems to work well. I haven't really had any issues with the software. 9600 baud is a little bit of an issue. Still working on that. And but that's my story.
Cool. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
I can read out, Hank says he's got no mic, no camera hooked up, so he's unable to do anything in the way of a manner of doing 2 cents worth. So he says, done lots of tech stuff in ham radio, including microcontroller APRS software writing. Really an analog guy at heart, and contributed a little to analog design of a relatively new Nino TNC microchip DSPIC based 1200 9600 baud device. Jason, this group is just coming out with his SMD version of the Nino TNC. So he's a New Hampshire backpacker, I'm guessing that's what NH stands for in this case, and have done several ham radio balloon launches with Massachusetts National Weather Service Forecast Office. Owns several or a handful of groups.io groups, including one devoted to the science of weather, not Skywarn, the largest of which has about 1,400 members. Wow. Okay. I thought I had a lot of members in mind, but that's huge. Okay. Excellent. Well, thanks, Hank, for doing a write-up there. We got two left, Michael, WZ0C, and then Jeff Martin, N1JCM. Go in that order.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michael, WZ0C. I'm in Eastern Massachusetts. I read about the Golden Packet project, I think right after the event last year. So looking forward to participating this year, however I can. Interested in all sorts of digital modes. Been using APRS for a while, did Packet back in the day. Currently doing some exploration with Arden, doing some testing around Massachusetts with that, trying to see what I can do with that. And then doing some of the other digital modes on HF. WZ0C, back to you, Jeff.
All right. And last but definitely not least, Mr. Martin, N1JCM.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Martin, as Jeff said, N1JCM. I'm last few years on Mount Equinox as the Equinox 12 or 13 station, depending on whether we add one or subtract one. Before that, I did Greylock with Don, AB1PH for a number of years. So I heard, John, you mentioned that you didn't think 9600 baud on the Pi Zero works. I have my 9600 baud appliance station is 20 W based, so I use that at the setup on Equinox last setup. So it's working okay, at least with the Pi Zero 2. And I worked with Don some on the appliance and things like that. I've been involved in Golden Packet for a while and playing with APS for a while as well. Back to net.
Well, yeah, I think what is the 2.0 is what equivalent to a 3B or a 3B plus.
That's
Well,
right.
the 3B and the 3B plus have the same CPU, so
Right.
cool. Well, did I miss anybody?
Yeah, I think you missed me, Jeff.
Oh, well, I thought you kind of already introduced yourself, but go ahead.
Yeah, but no, I was gonna say, if anybody wants to know about me, I presented on the history of the trail last month. And you recorded that, and that's available if anybody wants to see that, right, Jeff? Guess I lost you, Jeff.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, that's all recorded, what I talked about the history of the trail last month. That's available on people to go look at if they want, right?
Yes, yes, I think so. Maybe I didn't remember to upload it, but I've got the
And then-
recording. So
In any case, it will be, so I don't want to go into that. I just want to talk about some different things I did this year. I had a problem here in Phillips because I had a neighbor that had a grow house. So my HF bands were totally saturated with noise, S9 plus. And that finally got taken care of. And another buddy of mine helped me put up a long wire, which is 14 gauge stranded copper weld.
you guys just smoke a bunch? Is that how you took care of it, or?
What's it? Well, yeah, it got taken care of. The guy's in prison.
Oh,
You
It was
know,
a
it
fire.
wasn't your average grow house, right? It was a part of a whole big ring of people that got busted up here. in
oh,
Maine.
yeah, that does take care of it then.
So anyway, I've got a long wire. It's not a half wave infed, but it's resonant right near the 160 meter band. So it's a long, nice long wire up about 20 feet. So I'm just so happy to be back on the HF bands, and my noise level is like S0 and everything but 40 meters. So lately I've been doing a lot of POTA hunting, primarily on 40 meters and above. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. And the other tidbit I just wanted to throw out, if people are interested in some other new modes, there's a mode out there called Rattlegram, RATTLEGRAM. And it's around, you just download the free app on your smartphone, and then you hold it up to the speaker and microphone on your Biofang. There's no hardware interface. It just works with the mic and speaker on the Biofang, and you can do digital message. So if somebody wants something different to play with, I'd encourage you to check that out.
John, what was the mode, you were telling me there was a guy that was here in Georgia that developed kind of like a APRS like protocol, is it Rabbit or something?
Was it Rattlegram that I'd sent you?
No,
This guy did a whole presentation on it.
or Ribbit, does that sound right?
Maybe, I just can't remember. One of the things that is going on is that, you know, particularly now with YouTube, a whole lot of people are sort of self-discovering, and they get like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did a digital mode? So I'll go and make a brand new one. So there's a lot of fragmentation going on. And, you know, so like the guy with Anytone, oh, I'm in China, I can get a modem chip and I'll make something work, and I'll just call it APRS. You know, so that's one of the things I'm hoping that with this group that, you know, you have the ability to do testing, you know, instead of just doing something, you can test it with Dawn against Direwolf and promote more interoperability. But I forget which particular one that was out of Georgia.
Ribbit.
Ribbit?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Ribbitradio.org.
Oh, yeah, it says here that he's got the app is called Rattlegram, but yeah, it sounds like Ribbit is the protocol.
No, Ribbit is another one of the protocols. If you go to www.ribbitradio.org, you'll see about that.
Yeah, Rattlegram's different.
It says here on the website, try
Right.
Ribbit today, transmit text messages over VHF, UHF tech demo published as Rattlegram on the Google Play Store.
Yeah, I see it now.
I just published a link to a YouTube video on Rattlegram if anybody's interested.
Cool.
You are going to archive this chat, aren't you, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of good stuff in there tonight.
Jeff, did Don give you an update on his article in QEX?
He submitted it and it was accepted, but they did not provide him with a publication date. But I think the average is like 14 to 18 months or something from when it's submitted. So it could be a while.
Okay.
That's my understanding as well from talking to him.
Yeah, I'd love to see it hit before the event this coming summer, but maybe wishful thinking.
And the other thing is here in New England, we have a lot of people. New England is relatively small compared to the southern states. So last year we did a couple of get-togethers. We did a get-together in Portsmouth at the IHOP once. We did a couple of get-togethers at Deerfield. So we'll probably try to get some kind of New England get-together going before the trail. So, you know, something, if you're in New England or you can make it, think about that. That's a great time. We'll all get together someday and test the interoperability of our stuff.
Cool. Does anybody have anything else burning they want to go over? Otherwise, we can kind of call it and give people some time back. Oh, Brian is asking if we could do a baseball cap with the logo. We could potentially do that this year. If there's one lesson I learned about getting merchandise printed up, it's the more colors that you need, the more the items cost. And in the case of the place that I ordered the shirts from this past year, they require a certain quantity to be ordered in order for you to have a wider selection of the types of shirts, brands, and styles. So because the logo I got this past year was 4 colors, it limited, and I didn't want to order 40 shirts. It limited us to only one brand of t-shirt, and they were okay. I wouldn't pick them again. So you know, we get anything printed up again, the logo will be probably no more than 2 or 3 colors. But yeah, I mean, I'm game if anybody's artistic, and we don't, you know, I'd love to not pay a company $150 to do a logo this year.
You know, I'd be really interested in like a patch that we could have that you could sew onto
Patch would
anything.
be cool too. Yeah,
You could sew it on a coat, sew it on a hat, whatever you wanted.
yeah. I like the pat, yeah, the patch, the hat. I mean, truth of the matter is, you know, if you get the logo, there's companies that will help you like build like a storefront, and then people can just go and order whatever merch they want with the logo included on it. So we could look at doing something like that. I'd like to have something where it's, like, unfortunately, I didn't realize how much lead time was needed, and I kind of waited a little too late, as you know, my usual fashion, that it didn't really provide everybody with an opportunity to order. So I'd like to have something that we could just leave an open order year round, so people can just buy whenever they want. So, I mean, I guess we just kind of leave it at that. What does Hank say? It's not available Monday. Make a habit of uploading the recording before next month Zoom takes place. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Hank, I try, and then I end up getting pulled off into other things, and I forget to come back to it. I just try and remember to do too much, and my brain doesn't work as well as it used to. So I'm trying to get more disciplined about writing stuff down. So I'll get it posted. I'm writing it down.
Well, in light of the holiday and the end of the year and all, I just want to say a big thank you to you, Jeff, for taking the lead, coordinating this event, coordinating the website and the wiki, and all you've been doing for this group. It's just invaluable. And I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to do it. You guys are a lot of fun to work with, and I hope you appreciate what I'm doing. So
Oh, we totally do, Jeff. Can't say it enough.
awesome.
Question for John Wagner. Direwolf guy.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question, the config file, if I want to change the config file, can I do it on the fly and get a result out the radio, or do I have to restart Direwolf?
No, it just reads it once it's start up.
Once it reads it once
It start up,
once
yeah,
it starts,
If you change it while running, it's not noticed.
it's not noticed. And
That would be an interesting new feature, to be able to change configurations on the fly.
yes, it would be. I was
So there's
looking at it today, that if I wanted to just kind of test that, of course, it didn't work. I just changed a word around from uppercase to lowercase, and I waited for it to beacon the next time, but I didn't see it change. So if it, I don't know, it was kind of an
Well, John,
interesting thought.
you know what I've done, John, is I've taken it and run it through systemctl, so that you can just do like a quick reload without having to stop and start. That actually works nicely. And then I forget the name of there's an application we use in the DMR world that they move from a flat file to a database, and instead of instead of having to stop and start, they push config changes into the database, and the application just picks it up right away. So but that probably adds more unnecessary sophistication. I mean, adding like in a Postgres database or even something lighter weight is probably not something that you want to undertake, but
I'm just really happy UI flood works.
If I was really, really ambitious, I might do like a RESTful interface. And that way you could, tell it to do things and query it for information.
that would be cool.
Yes. And you pass the command asking it to reload.
Because like for example, right now it keeps an internal list of all the stations that have been heard. along with timestamps and it was last heard and other characteristics. It would be useful to have a way to dump that out on demand.
Sure.
That is the misses. That means the meeting is over.
Well, John, you have a job for life. Everybody loves Direwolf and they're never gonna stop coming up with new feature requests.
Maybe if they showered me with enough money, I could
I
retire.
was gonna
if I
say,
could spend
put
more
a fee
time
on
it.
each request change.
I mean, John, you may want to consider just, and Lynn as well. I mean, one thing that I've learned is if you don't provide a mechanism for donations, you don't know if people are willing to pay. And I mean, when I was at Atlanta Radio Club, I had a donor box link that I put up and people would throw money at the club all the time. You'd be amazed as to how many people have extra cash laying around and they're willing to pay for people's time and effort. So you may want to look at just going and creating a donor box account and putting it up on your GitHub page or Lynn on your wiki and just say, accept donations. Doesn't hurt.
The problem there is that if people get something for free, they have no right to complain that it doesn't do exactly what they want it to do.
But a donation is not paying for a software license, right?
But they think it is. If
They
they
think it is, yeah.
give you money, they own you.
Well, as I said, it's just a suggestion, take it or leave it.
Because currently I have a triple money back guarantee if not completely satisfied.
Triple money back. I was only doing double money back.
Triple.
You gotta up your game, Lynn. Cool. All right, guys, I'm gonna close it off.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, this ended up being fun. I like some of these free form sessions. They end up, they tend to turn into something pretty cool. So hopefully we get Don next month. If you guys think of anybody who would be a good presenter, right? Don't necessarily just leave it up to me to come up with somebody who I think you guys would like. If there's anything in particular that you would like to hear about, you've seen or have heard of any speakers that you think would be good candidates, John Tarbox and I, we can go try and chase them down and see if we can get them to come speak to the group. And I would ideally like to have, 2 or 3 meetings out planned so that, I'm not having to worry about it every month. So.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm being facetious here, but you would like to have 2 or 3 meetings planned out in the future so there's more opportunity to get cancellations.
Yeah, don't go there.
Just pulling your chain, John.
All right, guys, have a good night. Talk soon. Talk with you guys before Christmas, or Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever. Happy holidays to y'all. And
to y'all.
talk with you in the new year.
Happy holidays.
Thanks,
right.
John.
Rest of
Thanks,
the
Lynn.
year.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care,
Happy
guys.
holidays and thank you guys for having these sessions. I'm learning quite a bit. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.